So I've been making a lot of alpha bracelets recently. Pretty much exclusively this month. I don't know why, I'm just in the alpha zone I guess, and so I've been only making them. My entire to take pictures pile is filled with alphas. And with making a lot of alphas, you use up a lot of string. And you also end up with a lot of scrap string. With normal bracelets as well, but with alphas more so. So today I'm here to talk about what you can do with your scrap string, and also do a bit of a review, I guess, into the scrap string that I have. Because I have a lot. This entire IKEA container is filled with scrap thread. So yeah, I definitely recommend keeping your scrap string. First of all, it's good to recycle. You're saving money, you're saving the environment. There's no downside. I would probably recommend thinking of a better storage system than this, because this is not very comfortable, must say. Maybe separating your strings by type. I've got all the brands in here, like I've got yarn, regular floss, sort of Amazon floss, I've got twisted floss, threads of different thickness, threads of different materials, of different styles, metallics. Probably best to separate them because it's then easier to find what you need. And there's a few things that you could use your scrap thread for. First of all, I use my scrap thread in alphas. Whenever I'm making an alpha and I realize that I don't need that much of a specific color, if it's like a couple of knots per se, I always check my box of scrap thread first to see if I already have that color before I cut a new piece. Because you're only gonna need to cut a tiny little piece, maybe a little bit bigger, for that design anyway. Might as well use a cutting that you already have, and that way you're reusing them. Another great way to reuse scrap thread is doing bracelets that specifically require small amounts of string. For example, the Rainbow Alpha bracelet. When I did my tutorial on that, which will be linked in the card and in the description if you want to see it, I used entirely scrap thread. Every single string except for the white, which was the background color, every single string was scrap string. And you don't necessarily need to do that bracelet in a rainbow color scheme. You can do any colors that you like. In fact, I used it for one of my challenges and you guys came up with the most amazing color combinations. It was beautiful. But you could also do other bracelets. The Ragrag, for example, uses scrap thread. Another way that I've seen people reuse their scrap thread is by using them in backgrounds for their alphas. When you're making an alpha, you do a lot of color switches within the bracelet anyway, so you can use scrap thread of different colors. Like pick a couple of threads that you think go well together in terms of color combination and make that as your background. It would look multicolored, and it's a great alternative to when you don't have access to multicolored thread. You can make your own and get to choose the color scheme. That's a personal favorite of mine. I haven't actually tried doing that myself yet, but I've seen people do it on Instagram and it's amazing. Another good way to reuse scrap thread is perhaps using them as base strings. You don't usually have that long of scrap thread, but for example, if you're doing a keychain, you don't need that long of base strings for that anyway, so you could use that scrap thread as a base string for a keychain alpha. And then of course you could also do other crafts with them, like embroidery, which sometimes also doesn't call for a lot of string of a specific color. So yeah, all I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of different ways that you can use your scrap thread, and I definitely recommend storing it and not throwing it away. But all that being said, let's have a deeper look into my box of scrap thread to see if we can maybe recognize some bracelets that I did, because I'm sure I can. So this is the weirdest video idea that I've had since I did a video on cutting my bracelets. And I still get angry comments on that video, by the way. It's been a year. But I thought it would be fun to look through my collection, I guess, of scrap thread and see if we can recognize some bracelets. And looking at this box, I already do, actually. It's actually quite easy to recognize some of the bracelets because when I cut the string, I sort of put them in the box in the same color combination that the bracelet is. So for example, this sort of blob of string is easily recognizable to me. I know exactly what bracelet this is. I don't have it on me at the moment because I gave it as a gift to someone, I think, but I'll put a picture of it on screen. I'll try to link all the patterns as well in the description if you want to make the bracelets that I'm showing. But yeah, this is definitely easily recognizable. Like, I haven't made this color combination in any other bracelet except for that. So that's one bracelet that we've recognized. What else do I recognize? Oh, this I do. This is from an arrowhead that I did. This is a really long scrap thread. Yeah, this scrap thread is like a meter long, each of them. Wow, I really overestimated how much string I needed for that bracelet, huh? But yeah, this is from an arrowhead. I did a collection of arrowheads and I did them in all different color combinations, and this is one of them. And then we have this, which I recognize from my chevron tutorial, I think. Am I wrong? Let me Google that. Oh yeah, I am wrong. The chevron was a little bit different. I wonder what this is then. Oh, this is the refracted chevron. All right, yeah, the chevron was a little bit different colors, but this is the refracted chevron. This one is from a bracelet that I did for my mum, and I don't have that bracelet with me right now. This is from that time I did a video where I memorized the pattern. I had 30 seconds to memorize the pattern and I had to make that pattern, and yeah, that challenge didn't go well for me. So this unfinished bracelet is still in this pile of thread thread cuttings, and basically I'm gonna use these threads for something else because I'm not finishing this bracelet. I don't like how the colors turned out. Yeah, it just didn't turn out good. I see a lot of string that I sort of kind of recognize, but I can't quite place. This, however, was a double arrowhead with a metallic string. It was black and white, and it had a metallic string in the middle of it. I really like this bracelet. I remember it quite well. Oh, this is more of that same bracelet at the beginning that I showed. I kind of want to look at the bottom of this. What's on the bottom? Let's just tip it all out. Oh my god. Wow. The bottom is so old. I haven't tipped this out in a very long time. The bottom is ancient. Well, first of all, we've got this sort of paracord, I guess. Is that what it's called? I'm not sure. I got it because I wanted to try the Peruvian wave bracelet on the paracord, and I even tried filming it for a tutorial because I've done Peruvian wave bracelets before, and I tried filming a tutorial for it, but it did not go well on the paracord, so that video didn't see the light of day, even though I tried like 5 different times to make it. That never happened. So we've got that. Oh, we've got this bracelet. Made this bracelet just over a year ago when I was in America. I quite liked this one. I got the string. I made this on the plane. On the plane ride back from Miami to London. And then we've got this one, which I also recognize. This was a really good bracelet. I really, really love this one. This is one of my favorite bracelets of all time, probably. I really enjoyed this one. I wonder why this bobbin is in here. Not a clue. I should look into this thread box more often, honestly. Find some pretty interesting stuff. But this entire layer, this is like a cultural layer, you know, like in excavation, in archaeology excavations. Like, this is ancient. 7, 8, 9 years old, probably. Like, it wasn't always in this IKEA container. It was in a different box first, but then I transferred it here because this is the craft cord. This is the Loops and Threads craft cord, which I haven't used in over a year, and I only ever really used it back in the day. And there's a lot of it here. Oh, I recognize this bracelet. This. Is it still connected to the bracelet, I wonder? Oh no, I think I cut it off. I think I showed it in one of my collection videos. This was supposed to be an alpha bracelet. That never happened. This was supposed to be Zoro from One Piece, his flag, but it was a huge alpha. I did a loop. I didn't do a very good start. I just did a loop, so all the thread was bunched up at the beginning. It was really, really big. Like, it was a massive alpha, so it was really bunched up at the beginning, and then I realized how big it was, so I never ended up finishing it. But wow, there's a lot of string here. I don't recognize half of it, honestly. Like, all of these, like, loops and thread ones, I have no idea what bracelets they are from because it's so old. We've got more of the Zoro. Oh, there it is. Here is the Zoro. Oh, it's even bigger than I remember. Yeah, so part of that string I did cut off and reuse, but this is the actual bracelet. I don't have the pattern for this, I don't think. I don't remember what it was. And I don't even know how many strings wide this is, but this is probably the most ambitious alpha that I ever attempted. Okay, I'm actually curious now. How many strings is this? 1. So I'm not sure I counted correctly because half of these strings are ripped off, but it's about 70 strings wide. I've never made anything this big since. Or ever, really, because I didn't finish this one, did I? But I did a huge loop for it, which is like a square knot loop. 2 ties after the loop. I don't know why I did that, 2 big knots. And then it was all bunched up because I made it straight after the loop. And obviously the string doesn't have anywhere to expand because it's all bunched up here. So it all bunched up and it's all wiggly. And there's nothing you can really do about it because, like, you want to straighten it out, but you can't because the string is all bunched up here, which is why people do triangle ends after loops, to sort of spread out the string evenly so it doesn't bunch up like this. Because even if I want to straighten it out, like, the only thing I can do is sort of push it out like this. I can't straighten it out because it's all bunched up at the top. I tried to make this for Stefan because he was really into One Piece at the time, but that never happened. This is from the Distorted Chevron, I think, or something like that. This is from one of the chevrons that I did for a tutorial. There's so much string in here. Wow. And the thing is, it looks like I never use this, but I actually do. Like, I reuse these strings quite often. I don't get to the bottom layer, I must say. These loops and thread strings I don't really use anymore. I only ever really use the strings that are at the top, but I do use these. This is like a history of all of my bracelets. I genuinely feel like an archaeologist sort of unraveling. Ooh, here we've got another arrowhead. And here we have that bracelet that I did for the random pattern challenge that turned out exceptionally well. I was really happy with the bracelet for that. It feels like I'm digging through and trying to decipher the clues to figure out what the bracelets are. Fun fact, I actually used to want to be an archaeologist when I was a kid. When I was about 7 or 8, I really wanted to be an archaeologist. I don't know why, but I did. And then this was still when I lived in London, and then we had some archaeologists come into school for like a presentation. And it was the summer, and they had sandals on, and they sat in front of us, and they like gave their presentation and read some books to us. And I was sitting in the front row, and I looked at their sandals, and I saw that their fingernails on their feet were really dirty because they were obviously like in dirt. And my like 7-year-old self, or 6-year-old, I don't even remember how old I was, I thought, do you know what? I don't want to be an archaeologist. archaeologist because I thought that if I was going to be an archaeologist then my feet would be dirty. Which kind of makes sense, but I find that funny that that was the reason that I decided not to become an archaeologist. Yeah, that's just a random fact about me, I guess. I find this actually quite fun. Like, all of these bracelets I've given away, but I still have sort of the components of them, I guess. Something to remember them by. But yeah, there you go. A quick overview of my scrap thread collection. This was a really weird video idea, but I enjoyed it and I hope you did too. And that's all I have for you guys today. I definitely have way too much scrap thread, despite the fact that I constantly use it. And it was fun looking through it to see if I could recognize some bracelets. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope I inspired you to keep your scrap thread instead of throwing it away if you didn't do that already. And before I go, I want to give a special shout out to my patrons and especially my top supporters whose names are going to appear on screen right now. Thank you very much for your support. I really do appreciate it. And if you also want to become a patron, there is a link in the description where you can sign up and get exclusive perks for your donations. I'm about to send my Patreon packages this month. If you want to get yours as quickly as possible, now is the perfect time to sign up for one of those tiers. If you want more content from me, don't forget to follow me on Twitch. I've been streaming a couple times a week now, and it's been really fun interacting with you guys. I would also appreciate if you consider clicking the subscribe button on this channel because we're getting really close to 100k, and something exciting is coming when that, and something really exciting is coming for 100k. But regardless, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!